Welcome to Real Women, Real Life. It is great to be with you today. And on today's program, we are going to be addressing a topic that I think is quite a tough one to talk about, but necessary. So I'm going to start off with giving you a statistic, and this is the statistic. 1 out of every 3 children are raped in South Africa. Now, I know this program goes all across the world, but I'm talking specifically about our country, South Africa. 1 out of every 3. That is a shocking statistic, and it's not something that we can actually ignore. Most of us know that there is an issue, but some of us choose not to look at the issue. Today, I want you to look at it. I want you to look at it head on. I want you to pay attention, and I'm so honored to have an incredible lineup of guests where we are going to be talking about this on this program and the programs to come. And today, I welcome to the program Dr. Almeen. Welcome.
Thank you very much. Thank you for the opportunity. I appreciate it.
Great to have you here. I mean, it's really such a privilege and honor for me to have you here. So what exactly is it that you do?
I'm a qualified social worker. I'm registered with the South African Council for Social Service Professions, and I'm a lecturer at the Northwest University in the Vanderbijl Park campus.
Okay, yes. All right. So you are a lecturer, yes. You teach people,
yes,
you take the knowledge you've got and you train them.
Yes, and we do some research as well.
Okay.
Yes, so I train students, we do scientific research specifically on the risks and resilience of doing child protection social work actually.
Wow.
And then after hours I do some child protection work.
Wow, okay. Yes. I can imagine there must be a whole lot involved with that.
Yes.
How did you get into this? Why did you choose this profession?
I think child protection social work is not something that you choose. I think it chooses you.
Okay.
So I think I have always had a calling to do social work since I was a little girl. I've always been attracted to helping those in need. Right. So if that answers your question, yes, that's
it does.
Why I do it. Yes.
Dr. Almeen, how do the social workers respond to child abuse?
Thank you for the question, Tracy. Social workers are employed in different fields within social work, from health, addiction, therapy, statutory, which is what I work in. So the way we respond to the crises in South Africa and the way we respond specifically to child abuse might vary. As a child protection social worker, or formerly known as a designated social worker in South Africa, we respond on a few levels. It can either be on a level of prevention, early intervention, or statutory level, or we can deliver aftercare and reunification services once we've either intervened on one of those 3 levels. Okay. So in terms of child abuse cases, depending on the situation, depending on the need of the child, the context, sometimes it's necessary to intervene and actually remove the child from the situation. Other times it's sufficient to just deliver services to support the family and to provide assistance or access to specific resources to better care for the child. Okay. So it would depend on the situation and which field within social work in terms of how we respond to the problem of abuse.
Okay, so this may seem like a simplistic question, but I'm sure it is not that easy to necessarily answer. How can a person prevent child abuse?
Very difficult question. I think what we can do as a society to prevent abuse are things such as awareness, like this program, education. I also think one thing I would like to mention is mandatory reporting of abuse.
So what is that exactly?
Mandatory reporting refers to the obligation that we as a society have to report abuse to authority. Because when we know about abuse and we do nothing about it, we are actually as guilty as the perpetrator. So we all have the opportunity to bring it into the light so that the qualified people and people in positions to do something about it can actually do something about it. And when we speak of mandatory reporting, we refer to Section 110 of the Children's Act, Act 38 of 2005, which gives us a list of professional people, such as a dentist, a physiotherapist, a pastor, social worker, etc., who we are obligated to report abuse to someone like a designated child protection organization, the South African Police Service, or the Department of Social Development. Okay. And this is in line with Section 54 of the Criminal Law Sexual Offences Related Matters Amendment Act, which clearly stipulates that we are actually guilty of an offence
Wow.
if we, for instance, do not report a case of sexual abuse.
Sure.
So
Okay.
we have to report it. And there's a
Okay.
specific form, a Form 22, that you complete. It's available on the internet, or any other child protection organisation can provide that you complete, and you submit that to the authorities to
All right.
to report the case.
So what you're saying is, if you know that you know of a child that is being sexually abused,
yes,
and you do not do anything about it, you are guilty
of an offence.
of an offence.
And you can actually receive a fine, or you can be imprisoned.
Wow,
Yes.
that is severe.
Yes.
What happens if you just suspect it?
There is a provision made for that. The Act says that if you have strong grounds to believe that there's a high likelihood, or you have a strong suspicion that a child is being abused, neglected, maltreated, exploited, you must report it.
Okay.
The authorities will then investigate the
Right,
case. Yes.
right. So even if you suspect it, because
Yes.
I think that could often maybe be a situation, maybe you are neighbours with somebody where you hear things,
Yes.
you're not too sure,
Yes.
from the outside the
Yes.
family looks together,
Yes.
but there is a concern for you. Even so, that concern should be reported.
Yes, and we get that on a regular basis.
Okay.
I often get complaints of concerned neighbours, people, they want to remain anonymous, and we as social workers have to respect that anonymity as
Okay,
well.
good. So you are allowed to stay anonymous?
Yes, of course.
What happens if it goes to the next level, though? If the child is being abused?
The person who reports the case still remains anonymous. There's no need for us to disclose where we heard it,
Okay.
unless it becomes a very serious case where the person has
Yes.
to testify, and that is discussed with the person
Right.
who reports the matter. But I believe that it's important that people report abuse,
Well, good.
even when there's a
Good.
strong suspicion only. Oftentimes it is true.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So there's a mentality, I think, that can be found, where people will say, I suspect it, but what's the point?
Okay.
What's the point of
Yeah.
me maybe reporting this? Will something actually be done about it?
I think I understand that some people might feel, what's the point? But I think, like I've explained now in terms of
Yes.
the legal background, that we actually have a duty.
Right.
And that
I
each
agree.
person has a duty to report a case of abuse or neglect, because who else is going to stand up for the child
Yes.
who's voiceless? And so I think the responsibility with the community is to bring that knowledge to the professional person, and then the responsibilities with the professional person to intervene.
Good. Okay, well, I think that's made it clear. If you suspect, or you know of, or you think a child may be being sexually abused or abused, it is your responsibility
Yes.
to speak up, because maybe your voice is the only voice that's going to help that child.
Absolutely.
Correct.
Absolutely.
Okay, Dr. Almin, I think we could probably talk forever,
Yes.
but I would love to know, you mentioned that the social working, the system is overwhelmed. You
Yes.
need more social workers. So
Absolutely.
to that person considering studying the field, what advice would you give them?
My biggest advice would be to do social work if you feel that you are called to do social work. This is not a profession for everyone. You really need a passion in order to persevere
Yes.
throughout the struggles that comes with this job.
Right.
So that is my biggest advice.
How do you keep your heart? How do you keep your heart whole with the cases that you encounter must be severe? How do you put your head on the pillow at night?
I think healthy boundaries and taking care of yourself, those are very important aspects to make sure that you can survive the
trauma really
Yeah,
that you are seeing every
yes,
day,
yeah,
because
yeah.
it is traumatic, and I think there's
The exposure,
the exposure. You can remove yourself to a degree,
Yes.
but
Not entirely.
Not entirely.
No, not entirely. So I think healthy boundaries, taking care of yourself, those are the basics to surviving the profession of social work.
okay.
Yeah.
So well, if you
Yeah.
feel that this is a profession you want to do,
It's very fulfilling as
Go
well.
for
It's not just
I
negative.
can
Very
imagine.
fulfilling, yes.
I can
Especially if you are
imagine.
called to do it.
Yes.
Yes. So
knowing that you've helped someone,
yes, absolutely. And if you can change one life,
I agree.
That's sufficient.
I agree. I mean, that one life that you may be saving,
Yes.
you have no
Yes.
idea
Yes.
what that person will become one
Yes.
day.
No,
So you,
absolutely.
in helping save that child's life,
Yes.
you're saving their purpose, you're saving their destiny.
Exactly.
That must be incredibly fulfilling for you.
Absolutely, absolutely, yeah. And every child is of value. Every child has a right.
Absolutely,
So
I agree.
there's
I
no
agree.
reason why we shouldn't be doing this at all. It's very important.
Final question. We started off this program with saying 1 out of every 3 children are abused in this country or sexually abused. What is your hope to redeem that figure?
I hope that the pillars of child protection in South Africa will be strengthened by the authorities to such an extent that they can be even more effective in preventing abuse from happening, and also to be more effective once abuse has happened, to intervene in a way that we can try and restore the lives that have been damaged.
Absolutely. Well, I certainly do pray that that's the case, and
Thank
I hope and I pray that we get there. As a country, as a community, it is our responsibility. It's not just Dr. Almeen's responsibility. As a community, we need to all be looking out for each other, looking out for the children, and I do believe we can make a difference. No
Yes.
matter how insignificant you think
Yes.
your difference is, it can be made a difference. Thank you so much, Dr. Almeen. It's
Thank
been
you.
an absolute honor
No,
to
thank
have
you.
you on Real Women. I really appreciate it.
Thank you very
Stay
much.
tuned. After this very quick break, I'm going to be speaking to a lady with a testimony that is going to truly, truly inspire you. See you now. Welcome back to Real Women. That was an amazing segment that we had with Dr. Almeen. And to just remind you of that stat, 1 out of 3 children are sexually abused in this country. That is a horrific statistic, absolutely shocking. And now I am able to speak with one lady that is part of that statistic, that experienced that statistic, and such a brave woman. Debbie, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you, Tracy.
It's such a amazing honor for me to have a lady that is willing to come share her story and share her testimony, really, of what you've been through. Okay, so you are currently writing a book.
That's
and the
correct.
book is entitled The Fight in Me. The Fight in Me. What is this book about?
In my life, I've had difficult situations that I had to work through in all forms of abuse, okay, sexually, mentally, physically, and I'm one of 3 siblings, and really this book is about hope.
Love
The
it.
people out there, I come across so many women and so many children that gets abused from different levels.
Yeah.
And the feeling is hopelessness. So this book is sharing my story. And the way I got to the title, somebody said to me, if you have to take your life, if you have to put it in a few words, how
Yes.
would you describe it?
Sure.
I said, fighting. And it seems like, okay, fighting is really not actually a good thing.
Yes.
But one of my very first memories as a child, I was 7 years old, and my father was on leave, and my mother complained about coming from school with dirty socks.
You were wearing the dirty socks?
Yeah, coming from
Okay.
school. And you know, all the girls have the white school socks.
Yes,
Okay?
yes.
And my dad said, if you get home tomorrow and those socks are dirty, you will have the spanking of your life.
Sure.
And I thought, okay, I'll keep it clean.
Yes.
So that whole day on the playground, I didn't play.
Because you didn't want to dirty
all
your
the
socks.
kids were running around and playing and just being a child. And that afternoon, as we got off the school bus, a little boy jumped in a puddle of water
Oh no.
over the socks. And I could actually feel my heart
Yes.
contracting with fear
Yeah.
about the socks.
Okay.
And something as stupid as school socks can actually rip your heart out.
Yes. Yes.
And I remember getting to the flat where we lived, and as I opened the front door, my mom went, look at her socks. And she said, this child better get a hiding today.
Okay.
And my dad took me by the arm and he pulled me into the bedroom, and he took the belt from his gown that was hanging behind the door, and he pulled it out and he bound my hands together.
All right.
And he threw me face down on the bed. And by that time I was screaming and howling and protesting. And my mom said, just shut her up, the whole neighborhood can hear.
Sure.
And he took a towel that was lying on the bed or somewhere in the room, and he pulled it over my face.
Yeah.
And he was holding it with his left hand, and he was beating me so bad. And I can still remember, it wasn't, I didn't even feel the beating. I was battling to breathe so much that my only thought was, keep fighting.
Yes.
Just keep fighting.
Right.
And when that beating was over, I was so relieved to be alive that I promised myself, I made an inner vow to fight right through my life.
Okay, so that's where the fighting began.
So that's where the fighting began. Before that, there was several other instances, but that is where I promised myself I will never take anything lying down.
Yes.
And like I mentioned, being one of 3 siblings, my brother was beaten so bad, and he just couldn't get up.
Okay.
He couldn't get up. If you look at his life, he couldn't fight back.
All right.
So between the kids, he's the one that really, my sister's the youngest of our 3, and she's angry
Of course.
all the time.
Yes.
So her life was caught up in anger.
Okay. So this moment happened in your life. Was it one moment, or did it carry on thereafter?
It got worse.
It got worse than
Yeah.
that.
Yeah. At that stage, it was any abuser get to a stage where they put the fear of
Yes.
the devil in you.
Yes.
And that was that day. And
Okay.
afterwards did the sexual abuse start, and the physical abuse.
The sexual abuse from your father?
Yes.
Okay.
So, and of course, my mom couldn't stand me,
Sure.
because you can see if your husband would take your part over your child's.
Yes.
Okay? And my mother hated me.
So she didn't try to
So,
protect you?
no. She felt like she was the victim.
Wow.
Okay.
She knew what your father was doing?
She never admitted it,
But she knew.
but she knew.
A mother knows.
A mother knows.
A mother
okay,
knows.
I've got children, and if anything happens to them, I know.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you know what? I'm sure she was a victim.
Mm.
If you look at the cycle in life, it's really about people that hurt.
Yes, absolutely.
And so it's a chain reaction.
Right.
And if I look at her, I'm sure she was abused. If I looked at my gran, she was abused.
Cycle just went
so
over and over.
it just went over and over
Okay.
and over. But it came to me to stop the cycle.
When did the abuse stop in your life? It started about the age of 6, 7. When did it stop?
At the age of 18.
18 years
18.
old.
Yes.
So for a period of 11, 12 years,
Yes.
you were physically and sexually abused by your
Yes,
father.
That's right.
All those years. During that time, we spoke about in the first part of the segment with Dr. Almin that it's our responsibility to speak out if you are aware of someone being abused. Did a teacher, did a friend, did a pastor, did a neighbor, did anybody at any point know that you were being abused?
Some of my friends, if I would go to their house to swim, for instance, when you change into costumes,
Yes.
and you're in the locker room and you're changing into your PT clothes,
Yes.
they would see the marks.
Okay.
They would see where a shambak would open your skin, where
Right.
it would be there,
Would
and
they
you can
ask?
see. They would ask. Some mothers would look but nobody ever got involved.
Were you crying out internally for someone to help?
It's an embarrassing thing.
Right.
Okay, so you don't actually want anybody in your business.
Okay, so you were trying
So
to hide it
You were trying
as much as possible.
as much as possible. And you know what? The hiding wasn't really the big part.
Yes.
You know what? Being spanked or being hurt very bad by your parents is something you allow
Okay.
because they're your parents.
Right. And you
Okay.
start thinking, I deserve this.
Yes, and you think, you know what, I'll just take it lying down and it will be over soon.
Yes.
It's the other stuff.
Of course.
It's the mental abuse, it's
Yeah.
the sexual abuse. You don't want people to know that.
Yeah, yeah.
You
No, I can
don't want
understand that.
you don't want people, and you had that fear that should you come out
Yeah.
and you talk about your abusers,
Yes.
that they'll come after you.
Yeah, yeah.
In one instance, my brother went to, they had PT, and his teacher said, get into your PT clothes, and he said, so I can't. He said, if you don't want a hiding today, get into your
Wow.
PT clothes. And when he put his clothes on, the bruises were so bad
Sure.
that you could actually see from the back of his legs and his back that he actually couldn't even sit down.
And the
Never
PT
mind.
teacher?
And he reported it.
Okay, good. Well done, PT teacher.
There was the welfare was called in, and we had a lady that interviewed us and talked to us and whatever. But then she also said, you know what, you have to stand up in court,
Okay.
and your father will be there, and you'll have to tell the story.
And that caused even more fear.
So everybody backtracked.
Wow.
There was no ways we would go to an orphanage. Our 3 kids decided together that we cannot do
You'd
that.
rather endure the abuse than go to
face
an orphanage.
Yeah.
Okay,
yeah.
Debbie, so now, obviously the whole point then of this book that you've written is to tell your story and to bring hope to people. But what more do you want to achieve by writing this?
I want to create an awareness.
Okay.
I want people to know that there is hope. If you
Good.
look at me, I don't say my life is perfect, but it's as great as anybody's life can
Yes.
be. And I'm surrounded by loving people. And the one thing I want people to know is that you have to find God first.
Yes.
You can't, there's nothing, the hurt, the brokenness, the severeness of what you go through.
Yeah.
Just know that God is there.
And he is obviously the
There was-
reason you have got through this.
Yes, there were so many nights where I would cry into my pillow and beg God, and I always thought he wasn't there.
Sure.
To know that he is. And that's where the healing starts.
And that's where it
healing
begins.
doesn't start with the social worker. It starts with God.
It starts with God.
Yes.
Well, you know, this program is coming to an end, and I'm so sorry to know that it's coming to an end. But Debbie is in the process of writing this book. Once you have written this book, I actually want to get you back. Is that okay?
That's perfect.
Once the book is complete, we'll get Debbie back and we'll hear further into her story. But what I want to just end this program with is just 2 things, 2 focal points. The first one here is, if you are aware of a child that is being abused, sexually abused, any abuse, do not turn a blind eye to that. It is your responsibility, as you heard from Dr. Almin. You have to give it a voice. Your voice may be the only voice that child will ever have spoken on its behalf. And in your case, you had the social worker that came. And if you know that this child, you've tried to give a voice, but there's still no hope, don't give up. Pursue it, okay? Find other ways and means of trying to help that child and help that family. They may not have anyone else except you. That's the first thing I want to highlight. The second thing is what Debbie's mentioned here. If you are going through this situation, or if you have been abused and you still have not got victory in your life, the only way you are going to get that victory is with the help of God. We believe that with all our hearts. We know that God is the rescuer. He's the one that turns beauty from ashes. He's such a master at doing that, of bringing joy into a situation of mourning. He is the only one that can restore completely, and Debbie is a testimony to it. Debbie,
Absolutely.
You are an amazing woman, and I just
Thank
want to
you,
honor you
Tracy.
for what you are doing right now, and pray that
Thanks
God
a lot.
uses your testimony in a mighty way to bring so much hope.
Thank
I
you.
really do. And we will have you back.
Thanks a lot.
You agree? We will have Debbie back.
Thank you.
So thank you so much for being on this very, very intense program, but very significant. And we are going to be doing more and more of these programs because I believe that we have got to start giving a voice to those that do not have a voice. Thank you so much for being on Real Women. I love you as always. Till next week, same time, go onto our Facebook page at RWRL TV. Let us know what you've thought about this program. Give us your thoughts, your opinions, and tell us how you think that we can fight this problem. Be part of the difference. Till next week, same time. God bless.